Farming for Nature was set up to inspire and encourage farmers that farm or wish to farm more for nature. And one of the ways we do this is each year we find exemplary farmers that are working alongside nature, and then we share their tips and their tricks that they do on their farms to encourage other farmers to include more nature on their land. So one of the ways we do this is we showcase a farmer each month, or a family farm each month, and this Q&A is one of the ways that we meet these farmers. So over the next hour, I'll kickstart the event, and sorry, I'm just turning off some videos here. They seem to have overridden. Over the next month, over the next hour, I'll kickstart the event by asking some questions. And if you have any questions for the guest speakers, please put it in your chat box and we'll facilitate them as we go along. So on to tonight's session, we're delighted to have two of our more recently awarded ambassadors, Rena Blake and Lisa Fingleton, join us. They run an eco-social farm with art thrown in, as they say, in County Kerry. Lisa and Rena, welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. Rena, we might just start with you. Can you describe for us your own journey onto this farm?
Sure. Welcome everybody. Sorry, I was waving at Thomas there. That's what the wave was. Yes, I suppose I moved back I was living in New York for about 16 years. So I moved back to Kerry possibly 20 plus years ago, and we're probably 16 years on the farm, Lisa and I, maybe thereabouts, a bit coming to and from Cork. So yeah, and kind of like where we are now it was a family farm. It was where my grandmother was born, and actually my mother was born. But I suppose like in most farms, that stage, my grandmother's oldest brother inherited it, but he had a few sons, but two of them didn't marry. So we had two bachelors living here, and it went up for sale in 98, and I bought it from New York in 98. I don't even know why I bought it. I just kind of bought it, and then after 9/11, I ended up coming back. I thought I was coming back for 6 months, and I never left. So I've been here ever since, give or take a few years in Cork. So yeah, and it's been an unusual journey. I came home with the intention of when I stayed at home, like, it was with the intention of maybe opening an open farm, because like we're Ballybunion seaside resort. I love heritage breed animals, and I thought I could do a little small open farm, visiting pet farm, but I just couldn't manifest it. No matter how hard I worked at it, it just didn't seem to happen. I think the house needed a lot of work. Everything needed a lot of work. I was on my own. I was getting bogged down, and it just wasn't coming in. Then every time we got animals in, they need a lot of management. So I kind of at that stage maybe turned to vegetables, actually, because I found much more easier to manage. You can put them in the ground and they'll stay there. And bar the weeding, I found I could manage that. But I had grown up market gardening because I lived with my grandmother all my life, and she made her living in town on an acre. She was I think for me, probably was the first market gardener I've ever known, and probably most of Ballybunion and North Kerry, because that's what she did for a living. So we supplied all the vegetables to the hotels and caravan sites when I was a child. I used to live in a pony car and a donkey car with my grandfather. So maybe coming back to the gardening party here was kind of in my DNA. I didn't realize it at the time. And yeah, and it's been a progression of that ever since. We've gone through stages where we've grown lots, and now we're growing less. And then I said to Lisa, I think I'm going to plant a garden again this year, a big one. And she goes like, huh? That was like 3 days ago. So it just, I suppose, like, I'm over the COVID area time there, I lost energy. I lost enough of that energy, but at the minute I feel like it's coming back. So I feel like I have more to put into it for this year. So basically we grow, I suppose, in kind of a 1 acre little area where we have tunnels, and we're not commercially growing, so it's really like an enlarged home garden, really, like probably larger than most but smaller. Like we're almost too small for market gardening, but we're too big to be a home grower. But that's kind of what we focus on the last couple of years, is just trying to get people to think about, like, you can grow at home, and you can be sustainable. And we are quite sustainable all year round, between fruit, veg, and berries and everything, actually. So if you need more questions, just ask.
Brilliant. So
Thank
you
you.
have about 20 acres, don't you? And Rena, and how's that split up then amongst the 20 acres?
I suppose 4 years now. Yeah,
Mhm.
4 years now. We converted half into native woodland, which for me was a huge decision. It took, I think, about, Lisa, maybe 4 years to convince me to do it, because I suppose I inherited, or I got this farmland, and then, when it's like planning permission, if you put something into trees, it's there forever and you can't revert back to it. And my brothers didn't want me to do it, nobody wanted us to do it, and I said, but at the same time, we couldn't manage the land. It was becoming rushy and wet, because we were trying to do it organically, and it just wasn't becoming sustainable. So once we made a decision to do it, in hindsight now, looking back in the 4 years, it was the best decision we ever made. It just has kind of brought the place alive. It has brought more animals, it's just more for us to do and see, and we love watching the trees. And like in 4 years now, they have they're double the height of me anyway, I'd say, a lot of them. So it's so there's half a native woodland, and then on each plot we put a native woodland, we try to leave a meadow alongside it. So I love I'm a big bird lover and follower, so I try to make sure that we have enough space for nesting birds, like larks and evil pheasants and stuff. We don't get a lot of them around here, but it's meadow pipits and stuff, so we leave a lot of area for them, and then they can come in and out of the woodland too. So we have 4 little paddock fields for meadows. We have the native woodland, and then we have the acre, probably acre and a quarter, probably around the house, that's mainly fruit, veg, and tree, like fruit trees.
Brilliant. And Lisa, I heard you speak there a couple of weeks ago, and the thing that really struck me and stood out for me is you were saying, you went to the market garden one day to sell the vegetables, and you made a fiver, and you guys realized you had to pivot that day. So you might just take me through the journey from what we would consider commercial productive farmer to the type of commercialism you have on your farm now, and diversification.
Oh, well, I suppose, like, organic horticulture is very labor intensive, and we always wanted to do it because we felt that it was really important that people had access to organic food. Now, since we started doing it, there's more people growing organically around, so it's great. So Rena and with Leah Farm set up a market, a Ballybunion community market, and it's fantastic. Like, it's absolutely brilliant. But it's really time consuming, and you're growing food in January, February that you're selling then at a market on a Saturday, and you're reliant on good weather, and you're relying on over the summer, So Rena, I said to Rena, you do it, because I'm loads of other things on. So she was doing it, and then last summer she was away for the weekend, and I said, try and do the market. It'll be fantastic. I get to chat to everyone. Now, if you remember last summer, I think it rained every Saturday. And so you do your
previous summer.
Yeah, sorry, it's previous summer. So we were, growing vegetables for the 6 months, picking them. I think we did 4 or 5 hours work before the market went down, lashing rain, absolutely miserable. All the stallholders looking at each other. But the difference, at least if you're selling something that's a craft, you can take it away with you and you can sell it the next week. Whereas I had all perishable salads and different things. And actually, I think it was €3 I made by 11 o'clock. And I just thought, oh. And like, I felt, Rena had been doing it every Saturday, and I felt sorry for her doing it. But I also thought, like, my work is all about, like, I've written a book about local food. I'm always trying to encourage people to support local growers and local food. And it really dawned on me, like, if we didn't have another source of income, and this was my only income, and I made €5 to feed my family for a week, like, that's just devastating. So that really was a moment where I thought, we really need to do this consciously and try and think about different ways of bringing an income into the farm, and to try and make it more manageable, because it's so weather dependent. It's weather dependent where you can grow your crops, and then of course with climate change. So you were asking me how we changed. For the last 2 or 3 years, I suppose, I've been working as an artist as well as a grower, but with climate action projects. So they're creative climate action projects funded under the Creative Ireland programme. And I feel they're game changers really for farmers, because they give us the opportunity as farmers, as artists, as creative people to really get involved in looking at climate change and what we can do about it. So I spent the first year of it working with farmers in Dingle. And because I'm living in Ballybunion and the farmers were in Dingle, I used to have to get a bus. It used to take me 6 hours round trip, because it was a climate project and we were trying to keep carbon low. So that was brilliant, because I got to work with 10 farmers all over the Dingle Peninsula, and we made films and everything else. And it was just fantastic. We had a great range of farmers. And then for the second round of climate action, creative climate action, we decided we'd try and do something here in Ballybunion. So with the community, we came up with a project called Brilliant Ballybunion. And again, I was trying to think of how could we change the model a bit, so that instead of maybe selling food at a market, that you actually feed people on the farm, or you have an experience with food. So, you know, it's just really important that so many people are disconnected from food. So the idea was that the group that we work with would come to the farm, grow the food, pick the food, eat the food. And that's been, I think that's been really fantastic. So, and a lot of the group, some of them are here tonight actually, are, you know, growing their own food now, really interested in setting up a community garden in town and all that kind of thing. And I should say as well, we also work with refugees as well, separate to Brilliant Ballybunion. And that was really extraordinary, particularly last summer, because we had men here from all over Africa, some of whom were farmers and had to leave because they'd had no rain in 3 years. I think one of them had lost all their goats. So that idea that you would be on a farm and be able to go down and pick your food and grow, you know, it was just magic. So I think that's really exciting, you know, it's lovely.
And also, I know you do social farming on the land as well, don't you? Yeah. So would you like to speak about that a bit, Lisa? Is it, or is it Rena?
Let Rena talk about that actually.
I suppose, I mean, we're probably social farming for 7 years now, actually. And I also work for Kerry Social Farming. I do 4 days a week with social farming. And I think social farming actually kind of enabled us to look at the farm differently too, because we have 4 people coming on a Friday. They come to us because I don't work Fridays, so I do it usually from about 10 to 1 on a Friday. So it's a kind of a 3-hour slot where we have 4 kind of young adults from St. John of God's, and we just do, like, you know, we just do regular things like you would do every day, your day jobs, but you know, from the tunnel, from planting to seeding to helping, you know, whatever needs to be done, like harvesting. When we were doing the markets, we were doing a lot of bagging and weighing and stuff. So it's a great I think like our type of a farm, our veg growers are great for social farming, because they get to, you're doing counting, you're doing weighing, you're doing a variety of different jobs, and you're out there and there's something happening all the time, like, you know, apples are different times a year and whatever. But it's like, I don't know. And then I suppose from having social farming in our bringing the lads in to the farm, it probably opened up our mind to the possibility of working with other groups. And it's definitely has led us down a road of looking at, like, how to diversify the farm. And I do think if anybody out there is listening that is in the position to bring somebody, be it with special needs or mental health or farming for elderly now that they're trying to get going, if you have that scope in your week that you can facilitate, I think it's a lovely way to give back to your local community, and it gets people engaged in many ways.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's always the highlight of the week, you know. Yeah. And also, like, even just how you see land differently. Like Antoinette is one of our social farmers who comes all the time, and you know, she was looking at a space that we were trying to convert. It was an old chicken run, and she was like, "Oh, we need to make this more accessible," and she was drawing it out. And you know, it's just lovely to have different perspectives and really diverse perspectives, and that really makes everything more possible, I think.
And if people are interested in getting involved in social farming, there's good supports there? You don't need to be kind of trained, or, you know, what's the kind of support there if you want to get into social farming?
Well, there's 2 models of social farming in Ireland. There's Social Farming Ireland, and us being in Kerry, we're always different. There's social farming Kerry. So social farming Ireland is quite large, and it covers every county except Kerry, actually, because there's social farming in the north too. And the model for the rest of the country is that the farmers get paid to facilitate the workshops on maybe a 3-month period, and the farmers get training with that, and it works out. Social farming Kerry is more of a voluntary model. We don't have a time frame on it. People are the relationships you build, or the participants you get to come on a year-round basis, or as long as it's good for the farmer or the participant, and it's a different type of a model. So like it's really both have a phenomenal website. It's very easy to get in touch with them, and like you'd have no problem trying to find out if it's social farming Kerry. You could contact myself or South Kerry Partnership or whatever. In Social Farming Ireland, they have a huge website.
And the only other thing I'd say about it is, it's amazing how isolated people are. Like when you're working on a farm, you can be really isolated. And through social farming, I've met so many amazing people. And I've also met farmers, say older men in particular, who might be on their own, or maybe a partner might have died, or they might be living on their own. And just the fun and the crack that someone coming into your farm once a week can bring. Like, I really wouldn't underestimate that. I was a bit skeptical in the beginning. I was thinking, how is this going to work? And, like it felt like we had a lot to do on the farm, but we really cleaned the place up, I'll tell you, just to make it.
And the people
good, really did. It was a good cleanup.
They do, and they slot into your work. Like you don't have to vary too much from what you're doing, depending sometimes on the participant, but they will slot into your work. But that is a good point what Lisa says. Like, we have a lot of people now that possibly social farming would be the only thing that's coming besides the postman coming in every week. And it is a great social inclusion project, and it is a great way to, and we have a great network. Like we have about 40 plus farmers in Kerry now, so we try and meet at least once every couple of months as a group, just to bring people together and meet up, the farmers themselves too. And that's all about social, like a social side of it too.
And you see so much because of that. Like, when do you ever get to go on each other's farms? Like, it's fantastic. We learn so much from other farmers on that. I really think it's an amazing network. Yeah.
That's interesting. The strength of a network is as important as to what you're doing as individuals within the kind of the system as well. It's very important.
Yeah.
So if we just come back to the farm there for a while, I know you were saying you planted trees and stuff. What other actions have you done for nature on the farm since you've had it? Rena, maybe you talk about that.
Well, I suppose that the trees and the meadows would be the big thing, because our meadows, like, people say you're farming, but like really we are.
It's changed.
Everything we're doing at the minute is about nature. Like our meadows, we don't cut them till probably late July, August, and I do that deliberately because I want the nesting birds, and for like, I want the ground cover. We want to see the irises. We want to see the wildflowers. We're taking people out on walks around the meadow. So that's become a huge part of it. Plus we have bees, and Lisa's always like, every flower in the place is for a bee. And it's the same too, I suppose, with the grass cutting. We alternate. Like I have a big ride on, and the place that it's got reduced and reduced and reduced, because now we're trying to do paths around the places instead of blanket cutting all the time. And our hedgerows, we put an awful lot of new hedgerows in, particularly the haws and berries. We do an awful lot of I suppose, like slips from black currants and stuff, and we've made just hedgerows of them, and they're great hedgerows, and they come on really, really fast, and they don't take a lot of care, but that feeds the birds and stuff. So a lot of the stuff is really hedgerows, the trees, and like our grass cutting, and then the meadows are like, what we're missing is a pond, and I have an aspiration by the by mid-spring this year that we'll get a pond, because I feel like we need that. Like we have a good streams coming down, but we don't have a pond system. So I think that's something that we're missing ourselves.
And we also did like projects where we've made a lot of willow sculptures and structures, you know, so that are really nice. They almost make really nice little bird hides, but also looking at if you were a bee and you were looking at land, what's on your land that's providing food from as early as possible. So we're trying to keep looking at the land to see how much food is there and how long can it last, you know, particularly for bees. And I think it's really, I'm sure everyone watching this has, maybe they don't, maybe they're very harmonious houses where everyone agrees about grass and everything else. But I think that's a reality. Like that's actually in every...
I've been on a journey.
She's cutting the grass and I'm going, it's an ecological wasteland. No, stop. All I think is ecological wastelands. I'm like, oh my God, they're an environmental disaster. I'm always trying to pick up their lawns and plant. But that's reality. You know, whether it's in a relationship that people are having different ideas about, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, they want a lawn, they want it to look really pretty, and they're worried about the neighbours will think if it's not. But I think the compromise has been really nice now, that we've had these beautiful paths through the land. So we now have like oceans of self-heal came up this year, this beautiful flower. In the meadow, we'd never seen it before, but just because of the way the rain happened this year and because of the way we only cut it twice, we got this amazing field of ragged robin. I'm here 20 years, I've never seen it before. I counted 80 orchids in a small area, like 80 orchids. Like it was just magnificent.
Amazing.
And we have a lot of Dibbles Spitz Biscavia too in one section. That seems to be, and we mined that section. We cut it like late fall. We'll probably trim it back down again in the spring, because it doesn't like, it needs to have a little bit of it doesn't like to grow through too much scrub. So we look after that section, and it's actually spreading. So and it's beautiful. Then it probably doesn't come flower really till mid-August, late August, but from August to September the butterflies on it are just magnificent. So and I suppose we've almost got a journey from the first I suppose willow that comes out. Like we just watch the bees. You can see where they're at. It's it's amazing to see that, like how looking at hedgerows. I never realized there was so much in a hedgerow, but we spent a lot of time looking at hedgerows these days. It's really beautiful.
And the humming and stuff. And tell me, Lisa, from an artistic point of view, how have you brought that onto the farm? You were saying about the grants and that you were getting that, but outside of, when Creative Ireland grants run out, like how do you envision the artistic element being on the farm in the long term?
Well, I suppose I'm a professional artist, so I've been working as a professional artist for 20 years. So traditionally with art, you work in your studio and then you go traveling. At residencies have always been like you go off traveling to different places. Whereas I've been trying, and I think there's a lot of artists in the country like Kathy Fitzgerald, who runs this amazing equiliteracy project called Famea. So we're looking at how can we change the model of arts in Ireland so that when we talk, that we're in residence, so we can be in residence on our farm, on our land. So I am the Kerry County Council visual artist in residence at the minute. And in fairness to them, I said, look, can I just be in residence on the planet, but also on the farm, and have people come here to the farm? And they were totally up for that. So what I did years ago, I was the filmmaker in residence. I've been many different things in residence, and I traveled and traveled and traveled. And that isn't really sustainable for people. So, and like we've had school groups here, we've had the Department of Education come here, and people really appreciate that experience. And you were saying on your social media about what's meadow meditation. That was the most popular thing. I just kind of made it up. I was like, no, you couldn't do it on a wet day, but on a fine sunny day, lying in long grass, like, is such a treat. It just dawned on me one day that I hadn't done it in ages. And then I just lay down the grass and I thought, God, this would be a lovely thing for people to do. So they loved it. So, but drawing, I suppose that we have Rena has a photography studio here. I have an art studio. So I would draw every day. And then the arts are precarious anyway. So I would have had a few works purchased by the National Collection, by the OPW. I'd be commissioned by people to make work. But that's challenging when you say, I really want to work from here. I don't want to be off doing residencies like I did in the past. So that model needs to change, I think. So hopefully the Arts Council will change and start supporting that type of work. But it's tough for artists. It really is tough for artists because people have to feed, you know, families, and the work is always, you know, very, very short term and precarious. Rena's laughing.
Artists and veg growers are probably
Really on a financial winner here.
But tell me, you had
No one wasn't motivated by money.
you had an interesting story whereby you went up to the ploughing championships, didn't you? And you kind of were speaking to farmers there, and I suppose, like, stereotypical, you might not have thought they were your audience, but how did it go for you?
Like, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So I like to do large scale drawings, and I done one in the Crawford Art Gallery. And then Tanya Benotti, who's the head of Creative Ireland, said, sure, like, why wouldn't you do 100-foot drawing? We have a 100-foot wall to draw for, was it 3 days at the ploughing? And so we decided we'd interview like hundreds of farmers. I still have all the postcards here with all their ideas about how can we farm in a sustainable way. So we said we'd only put up positive ideas, things that could actually work or would be good for farmers and for the planet and for climate change. So we drew those solid for 3 days. And yeah, I think it was fantastic. It went really well. And all of that is available on my website as well, lisafingleton.com, if people want to look at it, or they can contact me about it. But it was just really good. And the funny thing was, it lashed rain on the 3rd day. And the whole thing, the permanent markers weren't permanent at all street. And I thought, oh, this is the end of everything now. But actually, that was the best day because I stayed drawn and it was really miserable. That was the day that loads of farmers came back a few times to check that I draw what they said. I turned around at one stage and they were clapping. It was just like great banter. But I suppose it's, you know, you hear...
It's like a big think tank.
It was like a big think tank, a 100-foot wall think tank, you know, and some fantastic ideas. And it's all well documented. If people do go online, you're looking for this. It's a really nice little document that was produced on the whole experience and all the ideas that farmers had. Like, should we know? Like, we know what the solutions are. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the media focus on all the negative thing all the time. But I'll tell you, 3 days of talking to farmers, it was amazing. Just amazing. Like, we have the solutions. We just need to be able to do it, you know?
And I know recently you went off to India to learn from, you know, a certain guru and stuff. Do you want to tell us a bit about that and what you learned, and you know, and how you can bring it back into your own farming system?
So I just, you know, I suppose, you know, I don't know about other people, but I don't know. It was a rough year. Like, we had 9 months of rain here, you know, last year. It was really hard. I think it rained on the farm from certainly the end of July to March. And here we'll be trying to run these climate projects, you know. Oh, there, you were getting the picture of her. So I've been following this woman called Vandana Shiva, who's an amazing advocate for farmers' arenas. We're pulling things off the wall. That's her there, Vandana Shiva. She's amazing. Follow her. She's got a great film called Seeds of Vandana Shiva. But I suppose what's really interesting about her is that she has this global analysis of what's wrong with the system, you know, that farmers are less and less in control. Farmers are in huge debt if they're in any way large scale. She also looks at, like, you know, Monsanto and Roundup and how the chemical industry has really changed farming, and the industrial food system, how that is not serving certainly the eater, the people who eat the food, but it's certainly not serving farmers either. So she has this big picture of what the issues are with farming, and she would be addressing like huge rallies in India, up to 500,000 farmers. Like, it's amazing. But she's also very aware that how many farmers, like thousands, hundreds of thousands of farmers have died in India through suicide because of farmer debt and because of GMO seed. And it's amazing that we don't hear enough about that here in Ireland. So anyway, she's doing all this work over here on one hand, on the global level, but then she's this amazing farm called Navdanya in near Delhi, 250 kilometers from Delhi. And there they save seed. So her whole thing is like, we need to protect our seed banks. We need to protect our soil. That there were like thousands of varieties of rice. And now we eat what? Pilau rice, long grain rice, and something else. So she grows with the workers there, 750 varieties of seed. And they distribute, sorry, what did I say? Rice and lots of other seed as well. And they distribute that to farmers to keep that biodiversity of seed alive. Those farmers then grow it on. they buy back organic vegetables from those farmers as well, and then they distribute food boxes to people. So it's extraordinary. And we met a lot of the farmers, and you know, I think we can see a lot of the problems that are happening in the world and all the crap that's happening. And it's really important, I feel, to have examples of people who are being the change, who are actually saying, here's the issue, but we'll actually be the change we want to see and not just talk about it. Do you want to say anything else about it?
Yeah, I suppose when Lisa said she wanted to go to Bandana Shiva, it was like we're going for going to work on a farm for a month. Because Jesus, we could do that at home. But we went, and actually, do you know what? It was probably one of the best things we've ever done, actually, because for me, I went with like saying, oh God, whatever, but I was going because it's Lisa, it was on Lisa's bucket list, and I said, you know, we're going anyway. But when we got there, I suppose it was great to see somebody doing something and affirming everything that you do or think, and to be around that like-minded people in person. And what she has is a living seed bank. So like her whole farm, everything they do is around growing a living seed, and then that seed is fed back into a system. And like she spoke to us probably 3 hours a day for 2 weeks solid. And then we had other people from all over the world coming in. So we did farm work in the morning, we had a lecture, then we had more kind of a like a food and then another lecture again in the afternoon, and it was really amazing. And like, you know, I suppose what I came back with thinking, we're so privileged living here. Like we lived on that, like we had probably, because it was quite, I wouldn't say vegan, but we were on rice and beans. Water is such an issue in India. Like we had bucket showers for a month, really. Yeah. It was 36 degrees, 90% humidity for the first 3 weeks we were there. And these people are just, they're plowing with oxes. And it's humbling to see the work they do, the determination they have on it. And also just, I suppose, like their vision around it. Like it really was quite brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing. And again, it was that thing of, you know, like so many things in Ireland, you know, like the procurement rules we have in Ireland and in Europe are shocking. I saw the other day on a tender that it said, we will assess this tender on the basis of meat. I actually couldn't believe it. The most economically advantageous tender. Imagine meat being the acronym to assess how we purchase food and how we feed people in hospitals and schools. And then you go to somewhere like Navdanya, where their whole passion is food, and we ate the most incredible food every day. Yeah. And every morning there was, or every lunch, there was the seed that the food came from was on the table in front of the dish. Like it was amazing. Yeah. And they also, it was a huge focus on soil. And I know Thomas O'Connor is on the call here tonight. And Thomas, we've learned an awful lot from Thomas. But we had Andre Liu at, who's the director of Regenerative Agriculture International. And we had him for a good few days talking about soil, and how we need to, if, you know, that a lot of the solutions to climate change that are being advocated, some of them are great, and some of them are going to be more intensive on the earth and more tough on the earth. And so he was talking about how carbon sequestration, about going back to photosynthesis, you know, and building up
regenerative farming,
soil. Exactly.
Regenerative farming.
And the importance of our role as farmers in the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis that we face. So it was really, people said, was it life-changing? I'm like, no, it was life-affirming. Yeah. It was like all of the work that Farming for Nature are doing, all of the work that Talamh Bio are doing, all of the work that organics farmers are doing and regenerative farmers. It was like, this is the future, and we have such an important role to play. So it was wonderful. And we could talk all night.
I suppose one of the things, like, you know, coming towards the end, like we learned so much. In my head was like, I'm not a sit down thinker. I just go and do things. And I said to Vandana, like towards the end, I said, I just don't know where to focus. I said, I've learned so much. And she said, like, the best thing you can do is go home and focus on the eater. Because she said there's only a certain amount of growers in the world, but there's trillions of eaters, and we have to educate the eaters to support the growers and to look at their food system and where they're getting it from, because they went to all sorts of everything on health and nutrition and food and what's in our bodies, and like, you know, the breakdown of like what pesticide is doing to bodies. So really, I came home thinking you can only eat organic, really, if you and look at the water systems, and it's all connected, and it all starts with the soil.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It sounds really inspiring. Thanks, guys, for that. So we'll just go to some questions here in the crowd. And if anyone has any questions, please write them into the chat box. There's been lots of conversations there, and thanks to people who have been sharing videos and whatever. I'm sure people can pick them up. But just here, one of the questions is Claire Lyons would love to hear more about the types of vegetables you're growing. Has social farming helped bring veg to new groups of people?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm just going to turn on the heat.
I can answer that.
Yeah,
I would think social farming has definitely helped to bring social through me and through all the other farms, because I've kind of had an intensive kind of trying to get more organic growers in social farming, and particularly vegetable growers, and like that has fed out through boxes and through Manor Organics and Tree, and there's another big social farm in Tom Sayers who are doing amazing work, and I think in the next year or two they're going to be big veg growers. But it's educating the people, it's educating the parents, it's educating, and it's getting it out on the street. So that I do think social farming is good for that. And I suppose for us, like we have 2 tunnels. So we kind of grow, like, you know, we still grow greens for the winter, because like most greens or salad greens will grow equally as good in the winter, if not better, than the summer. So we kind of grow all year round, and the same thing. It's like what we grow, or what we like to focus on, is stuff that we like to eat. So it's the leeks, the garlics this time of year, the kales, chard. I've had woes and desperate times with potatoes, but I still try to grow at least a small amount of them, because it's very hard to grow like organic potatoes in any scale, and try and mind them when you're on your own. So I've pared them down, but I love them. So we grow really what we eat.
Yeah, we grow everything really.
Yeah.
Like we grow carrots, we grow strawberries, we grow grapes, we grow figs, we grow pears, apples, black currants, blackberries, onions, everything, you know?
And that's it. And also, like, not so much now, but in spring, summer, I like to do some microgreens, because I find microgreens are very easy, and you have a product, or you have something within 10 days, 14 days, and it's quite accessible for most people to grow it, and it's a lovely nutritious kind of a fresh on your plate. But like, I think if people are, what I feel, and for us is, and I'm talking on a small scale, like some people specialize in areas, but I suppose because we the last 2 years we've kind of been growing for ourselves. It's everything we love to eat. We'll give it a lash and grow it.
And actually, can I just say something else about vegetables there? Because one of the things that's come out from this project is that we're working with a chef who happens to be vegan from Ballybunion. So we didn't intend that when we're doing this project, but because she's a really brilliant chef, we were like, well, this is great. So you'll be able to take our food and turn it into meals. So one of the things that's come out, and I really don't understand why we're not doing this at a national level, but beans, the importance of beans.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there is this demand for vegan food on one hand, then why are we not supporting farmers to grow more vegetables in Ireland? So the last statistic that I've been able to get is that 1% of farmers are growing vegetables in Ireland. Don't know how they work that out, but that's what I have from the Department of Agriculture. But if we're saying that there's a huge demand for plant-based food, then we're not set up for that at all. We're importing most of our vegetables. So I think the beans, the idea of growing beans, and we did it as an experiment this year. I planted a fair few butter beans, but we got kilos and kilos and kilos of butter beans. So beans are really exciting, I think, in Ireland, because not only can they be a crop for animals, but they're also a fantastic protein source for humans, and they grow really well in our climate. So we're going to run, that's why I put this picture here tonight, we're going to run a bean festival. So yeah, I'm going to
heard it here first.
Because you can, if you know the juice from the beans, you can actually make mayonnaise, and it's a substitute for eggs. So it's just really exciting. But you have to come to Ballybunion first to try that out before you take the idea.
Okay, Ballybunion beans, got it.
Ballybunion.
So Claire Lance also asked, can you host other artists on the farm? It'd be amazing if you could facilitate this.
Yes.
Yes, what we have done, we have had people here on a kind of a sort of a residency, better in the summer, you know, because just it's, yeah, the house is 200 years old, so it's kind of, it's much more pleasant
Spring,
in the
summer.
summer. And we also, as artists in residence, I've been hosting quite a lot of mentoring sessions with people, artist workshops, drawing workshops, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so you're very welcome to get in touch if that's of interest. Yeah.
And we were just talking last week about, like, we're trying to make a plan for next year, but we're thinking we might do something small, glamping type thing in the spring, summer, just to try it out and see how it works.
Yeah, well, even just if people want to come and stay, you know,
Yeah.
it is a possibility. Yeah. We won't be doing glamping.
Claire Lance has also asked,
Accommodation.
how is the stream? Have you had a chance to do any observations of wildlife in the riparian zone, and what is the status of it in terms of sediments and fertilizers runoff, etc.?
It's not great, and we have done tests. We
did the kick tests. So the stream that we have, it dries up in the summer. So it literally is like a dike that runs through the land from the hill.
Yeah.
And we did do, because as part of the project, we work with an ecologist, and we did kick testing.
Yeah.
And
actually all of the streams in our area, in our town, weren't great actually.
No, it was very
they're quite polluted
as expected.
Yeah.
But we were disappointed still to see,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the thing, you know, that we're all interconnected, aren't we? Like everything is connected, so we can be trying to do everything we can, but if the stream is being polluted, you know, somewhere else, then it's particularly with water, you really see water that you've no control over, you know, it, because it's coming from other places.
And because we live in a seaside town, yeah, like our whole infrastructure in the town is based on our beaches and our sea. So like you see it in the sea all the time. You can see, like, the days that it's brown, the days that, like, more over the last 3 years, we've had a lot of closures and beach closures due to just polluted water. So, like, no, it is something, but also through this project, and hopefully it'll happen, we've put in for funding with ProLaw to get our water tested all year round, because at the minute they only test in the summertime, but that's another byproduct of the Brilliant Ballybunion project. So hopefully we might get more. You know, information is key.
Yeah.
And if you know what's there, and you can figure, like, then maybe people might start looking at it and seeing it differently.
It's definitely something that we've really wanted to see happen. Like, I really feel like, especially as a seaside town, that everybody should have access to information before you get into a sea that potentially looks a bit brown and dirty. What are you actually swimming in? I did a drawing one time called E. coli soup, which was a bit contentious, but you know, we should know. You know, we've children swimming in the sea, and I think we have a beautiful beach here. We have a blue flag beach, but definitely there are times when that blue flag is threatened, and I just think that that's devastating for not just for the creatures who live in the sea, but for the people who come.
And we're not, as a crow flies, we're less than a mile from the beach, really.
Yeah, we're very close.
Yeah.
So but thank you for
It's
your
interesting.
question.
I've heard people say, you know, you talk about the eaters, but also the swimmers. They're kind of, because general public are the swimmer, you know, that's kind of another way of getting to the public, is thinking about their swimming, like you say.
Absolutely. And why don't we have that information? I just don't understand it. You know, we should be able to get that information. Yeah.
So Claire Lanza says, yes, there's an EU bathing water directive. So Catherine Rantry has asked, have you had any success with documenting and mapping biodiversity on your farm?
Yes, we have. We've had so Dr. Joanne O'Brien is the ecologist in this program, this Brilliant Ballybunion, but she actually did a map for us before. So she has mapped it. She has mapped it all out. And do you know what we did as well? It was actually quite interesting. We've done work with Transition Kerry, who are an amazing group here in Kerry, and Gertbrack Farm, and they were showing us how to not just map the biodiversity that's here now, but also look at it, how we can develop habitats for different creatures to live on the land. So that's where you come in with your willow hedging or your hawthorns, or, you know, looking at what's here. So yes, we have a detailed biodiversity study of everything that's here. We did a BioBlitz over the summer as well with all the volunteers, and we literally picked, somebody looked at grasses, somebody looked at birds, somebody looked at insects, and they literally mapped it all again. So we have a study going forward.
And something I'd like to do, which is map the edible wilds. We haven't got around to doing that, but like, you know, we would have a lot of nettles and we would have a lot of stuff throughout the year that we would forage ourselves, but we don't have a map of it, or we don't have a seasonal map. And I think this spring, summer, that's something I'd love to work on, because I love doing macro photography. I love doing, and I think if we could do that and have a little map of edible wilds on a seasonal basis would be lovely for us too.
And it's interesting as well to see what changes since the woodland. And it's only, see, our neighbour planted, was it 50?
40 acres.
Yeah, 40, 50 acres of woodland 20 years ago. And like you're watching how that changes. And now we've got, you know, it's only a 4-year-old woodland, but already like you see more buzzards, you see more hawks. We have a barn owl, at least one a barn owl, possibly two. And it's amazing to see the life that woodland brings. Actually, it's fantastic. So it'd be really interesting to see how that changes.
And we've in the 20 years we've been here, it's only since this spring I've seen hares. Like, I've never seen a hare, but all of a sudden we have these most beautiful red hares. I love them. And like they're coming back. Whereas like before that, I never, cause I get up early in the morning and I'm around and I've never saw them. And we saw our first hedgehog came to the front door there last week. And like, sure they've been there. Like I thought I left. It was actually a few months ago. Actually, I thought I left the sprinkler on. I got up in the middle of the night to walk out to see if I left the sprinkler on or in the tunnel. And I got to the door and I said, "Geez, what this?" Right at the door, I said, "What's that ball?" And I went back and said, "At least I think there's a hedgehog at the door." And it was turned off the light and it moseyed off again. And you know, people say, "Oh, what's a big deal?" But when you live in somewhere and you don't see those things, and all of a sudden they start reappearing, it's very exciting.
I find it amazing as well how forgiving nature is. Like, you know, I obviously speak to farmers like yourselves a lot, and you know, people could have greenfield sites and then within 5 years they're, you know, they have these creatures turning up, and it's incredible like how much does come back. So a question here from Paul Conley: do you need special insurance from social farming and bringing outsiders onto your farm?
We all the farms that are with social farming, we've all got our own insurance, like our own farm insurance. We have a farm insurance that allow us to farm walks on our, because we have a lot of people and workshops, because and it wasn't that expensive actually. We kind of have, people can walk at any time if they choose to, really. They don't usually don't turn up randomly, but they do. It is kind of, you could see somebody walking down the woods. And then social farming, through social farming, we ask people to do like indemnify social farming, and we also ask them to have public liability and employers liability insurance. But
and if there's additional costs, it's covered.
If there's additional cost, we cover the additional cost if there's an add-on to your policy. But the farm walk-in policy that we have, I think is it an extra, maybe, can't remember, is it 500 or something?
They don't break it down.
Yeah. So,
but I do think we mentioned that at the Wintridge as well, you know, that idea of we need to keep on top of insurance. We were just adding up, we were saying, like, imagine all of the policies, you know, health insurance, car insurance, farm insurance. It's ridiculous. Like, it's becoming almost impossible to do business. And I suppose my concern is that we really need to make sure that people have access to land, you know, and it's so important for people's mental health. It's so important for children that they can touch soil, that they can see animals, that they can be out in hedgerows. And I think we have a really important job. And I would hate to think that would be curtailed anymore because of insurance. Like, it really is a massive issue.
Okay, so sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. David Cotter has written a direct message to me. Thanks for your inspiring story, ladies. How would you recommend small-scale organic vegetable growers get together to establish sustainable businesses in their local communities? So, for instance, what you have kind of created in Ballybunion, where would you suggest that people start if they want to do something similar and bring it together a network of people?
I think join Talamh Bio. I think Talamh Bio are doing Trojan work for growers in Ireland, and that's one option. And then I suppose, like, Karen, what was her surname? Karen from Ballymaloe. She set up a kind of a market it was a farmer's market idea. It was a garden markets or something in Cork a few years ago. But like, you know, to set up a farmer's market, you just need a few like-minded people to get it going. The insurance is really relatively affordable. And it's and like if you want, you could contact us after. I could like run through things with you, but like it's actually quite easy to get it going.
Yeah, I'm not sure if your question is, David, your question is how you could link with other organic growers, or how you can link with a market to get a sale for your work, or link with. See, the thing is, we're all kind of operating in silos. Like really, like after coming from Dingle, and then I was in Kenmare last week, and there was an amazing 30 people in the room, but you need to have everyone in the room. So you need to have the market, the restaurants, the people who are eating food, shopping for food. Like Kenmare is amazing. It's got 2 organic shops now. It's incredible. But it was really great last week because all those people were in the room, and they were saying, we actually all need to be meeting together. Because what's happening is people who run shops are often saying, we can't get a regular supply of food. And then the growers are saying, well, it's really difficult because we're in a climate crisis, and we can't grow in the same way as we can. Crops that were growing really well for us are not growing as well anymore. So I think there's need for greater understanding, and also accountability, I would say, is one of the things that came up a lot in Dingle, is holding restaurants accountable. If they're saying, oh, I'm buying Mary Murphy, for example, there's not saying a real Mary Murphy, but a Mary Murphy's cheese, and Mary Murphy's cheese is on the menu once and never on it again. Like, it's really good if people who are consumers are actually questioning that, and also that restaurants are aware that, you know, it needs to be a real partnership. And we need consumers to be happy to eat seasonal food as well, and change the diet, make a seasonal diets and menus in restaurants, so that you're actually getting the shortest possible supply chain. Like 30%, imagine 30% of everything we're eating in the world, or all the food that we're producing, is getting wasted before it's eaten. 30%. It's just shocking. You know, so I think all of those things need to change. And I would love, if I can have one more rant about this, local food. Why are our schools and our hospitals bringing in food, you know, from big mass producers of food, instead of employing someone to make, you know, soup from local vegetables, or buy food from local farmers? You know, that's happened in Denmark, it's happened in France. You know, it's not a European directive, so we could easily do that, where we're actually using the skills and the talents in our local area to actually feed our children, to feed the elderly, to feed everybody who needs good food. So all those things are really exciting, but they do require a network of people to come together. Sorry, Rena.
Yeah. Anything to, yeah. Perfect. So, you know, we're coming into the last 5 minutes, and so if anyone else has any questions, let me know. There's loads of great comments there, and Thomas O'Connor has added there, organicgrowireland.ie for anyone. So where would you start advising a farmer if they are looking at their farm and they want to start diversification or diversifying? Where would you start advising a farmer where to start, and what supports to get, and what would your advice be?
I have a very good quick answer, then I'll let Rena take over. Dun, dun, dun.
Great answer. Great answer. I like it.
I was actually going to say the same thing. Yeah.
We're already started. We got it yesterday, so we're already starting to look at it.
Yeah.
Like, that's honestly, that is the most amazing resource, and I wish we had it 20 years ago. It might have saved us a lot of circuitous routes.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
Look, and sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but look, what was the question? Sorry.
Where would you start on the journey to diversify, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose really, if I was starting again, I would make a plan. Like, we did it without a plan, and we kind of just threw ourselves into it. I think now farmers and it just, everything's got more expensive, and it's harder to make a living. So you nearly do want to have some sort of a 5-year plan of what you think you're going to make, and where and how you're going to substitute your income, and how you're going to diversify. And you know, I can only really speak about veg growing, because you know, I'm not we're not into dairy farming or anything. So like, you know, I think if you can learn from the experts, and there's so many of them out there. Like we're actually blessed that we have so many. I think Knots Ireland are a great organization to link in with too, and they have loads of courses online, and just learn from the masters, because they're out there, and try get someone in to advise you where how to start, and just be smarter with it.
Yeah, and in terms of diversifying, I would say as well, as like, you know, what is it the thing that you're most passionate about? Because like my dad's a farmer. Like I've spent all my life in farms. Farmers are probably the most creative and inventive people. Like there's nothing really that we can't do. But what is it that gives us energy? Because you know, we're all getting older. So where do we put our energy? And if there's certain skills, like there's some fantastic, say, storytellers who could make the most fantastic on-farm experiences for people if that's what they were interested in, or people with crafts, you know, skills that they can make things or build things. And it might be a lot easier as we get older to do those things on our farms rather than always having to do the hard slog out in the fields. Like it's a lot easier for us to manage this way than it was for us to manage cattle in the field and trying to worry about fencing and worry about everything else that goes with that. You know,
chase too many sheep up and down.
Yeah, we've tried everything.
Ditches,
tried everything.
Trying to get them back in. I was just like,
but in terms of diversifying, we're always like, what gives us energy? And like, you know, we love people, we love wildlife, we love nature, and having more and more creativity in our lives, that gives us energy and makes us excited, you know.
And I suppose that's the best thing we've learned actually in the last 2-3 years. Like what we get now from the nature side of our enterprise is far more harmonious for us than what we ever got out of trying to manage animals. We just were never cut out to be farm
in that way.
Farm animal people. But that we love the nature. I love the trees. I love the birds. We love the meadows, and it's almost a joyful experience. And you know, I was just even saying yesterday, Lisa, like, you know, in like I'm counting the months till spring again because everything starts opening. So you know, it's you don't lose that passion if it's something that you really have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like we're, as I said, farmers, we're an aging population. You know, like it really is. And I think to attract younger people into it. Like I heard on the radio one day in Radio Kerry, they said that I don't know statistically now, but they said 60% of farmers had nobody to leave their land to, and that their children or may not have had children in Kerry, those particular farmers to leave land to. So what are we going to do? Are we going to like have all the land bought up by big corporations to do what with? So I think we really need to make it an attractive and a viable option for people that we can live on the land, but also live our passions in harmony with nature. You know, I think it's really important.
And that's what one thing Vandana Shiva said when I was there. She said, like, you have to hold on to small holdings, because it's in the small holdings that the magic happens. And she's like, she was adamant that like it's the small farms in India that are keeping all these traditions alive. It's the small farms in Ireland that are doing the same thing. So we just have to find a way to make them viable and work for everybody, really.
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice point to end on, actually. And listen, Lisa and Rena, thank you so much, because I think it's just a really interesting story. And in fact, I meant to say my hairs went up on when you were saying how the land had been sold and you bought it living in New York. I mean, that put shivers down my spine as how the circle that you came back. But it's just really nice to hear that you kind of assessed your skill set, I think, and looked at what you're good at, what the challenges were. And now you enjoy the farm, and you've brought your art in residence on it, and your photography, and you know your love of nature onto it. So thanks very much for sharing your journey with us tonight. So for anyone that's interested in learning more about Rena and Lisa's farm, or if you missed any of this session or you'd like to share this session with anyone, it will be up on our YouTube channel by tomorrow. Lisa and Rena hopefully will be having a walk for us at some stage in 2025. So do sign up to our newsletter, and you'll be notified when our farm walks are open, and that you can book it then. Also, you were saying, are you guys on any of the social medias that people can contact you if they want to contact you?
Yes, absolutely. Please do connect with us on, we came off Twitter when somebody bought it. So now we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram. And also, so we're at the Barna Way. So you can link there. You can link to Lisa Fingleton or Rena Blake. and also brilliant Ballybunion as well.
Link
Never
to
forget
her
that
because
one.
she answers.
Yeah, I'm on
You're
both
just
those
enabling.
reluctantly.
Yeah.
And also my website, so we don't have a separate website for the farm, but if you go to lisafingleton.com, there are loads of resources there, loads of films, loads of things that you can use if you're, you know, working with groups or you want to show them different things, and do get in touch through that is probably the best way, or social media.
Brilliant.
Thank
And
you.
just to say about the film is that Lisa and Rena have a gorgeous 5-minute film up on our YouTube site as well, so you can learn more about their farm there. So we'll finish up for tonight. Thanks very much. As Rena and Lisa had lifted it up earlier, we now have a farming for nature handbook that's available to buy, and a great gift for any. Thank you. Here it comes. For any farmer, grower, or
Christmas present.
Christmas present, great stocking filler for anyone that's into nature, really. So you can get that on farmingfornature.ie. Our next Q&A session will be with Tom Keane, more on heritage breeds. So someone who does have more livestock on his land up there in County Limerick. So that will be on the second Tuesday of January. So you can find that through our website in due course. Meanwhile, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining us,
Thank you
and
so
well
much.
done, and lovely to hear your story. And
Cheers.
good evening. Take
Thank
care.